Minister Chee Hong Tat, and a non-constituency member of Parliament for the Workers' Party, Mr. Leon Pereira. The debate was on the issue of live broadcasting of parliamentary proceedings. Since then, the issue has gained a lot of attention from many of Singapore's independent media platforms, some of which are represented by our speakers today. Okay, another response by the people towards the debate was online petitions. One online petition by Mr. Chee Hong Lau was initiated on the website change.org, and since then the petition has since gained 5,000 signatures. The online citizen has also garnered signatures for a public parliamentary petition in hope of gaining attention from the Parliament for the issue to be further looked into. Okay, so now the current situation of broadcasting of parliamentary proceeding is that the government commissions MediaCorp, our national broadcaster, to cover the sittings. MediaCorp then shows the footage on the various platforms such as free-to-air television and also Channel News Asia's Parliament microsite and its Facebook page. In a debate, Mr. Pereira raised questions on the ownership of copyrights of the video footages, editing of the video footages, and lastly, why isn't there live broadcast of parliamentary proceedings in Singapore? To which Minister Chee responded that the Parliament does not have a live feed because it's not in great demand. Okay. People, opinion, and news sites have since responded to Minister Chee's lack of demand argument and illuminated a few other points regarding the issue of live broadcasts. For example, is it merely a question of supply and demand? If so, how does that reflect on the relationship between government and the people? Okay, here I'd like to bring up an event that happened in Geneva on 19 October 2006. It was a conference on broadcasting of parliamentary business through dedicated TV channels and public broadcasting systems. This event was organized by Interparliamentary Union, the European Broadcasting Union, and the Association of Secretaries General of Parliament. In the conference, over 200 participants from 80 countries underscored the importance of providing more coverage and information of parliamentary activities. The result of the conference was, one of the main reasons behind such importance was that it's very important for public institutions to be accountable to people and to be transparent. And public broadcasts of parliamentary proceedings can help foster these two characteristics of democracy. So I'm thrilled to be here today with our speakers to further examine the underlying issues of transparency, accountability, citizenship, and more on the issue of live broadcast of parliamentary proceedings. Okay, so first I would like to introduce you to all of our speakers today. On my far left is Mr. Terry Xu, Editor-in-Chief of The Online Citizen, and then there's Mr. Kumran Pillai, Publisher of Independent Singapore, an online independent news site. And to my right is Mr. Chu Hui Jun, representative of the Consensus SG, a socio-political blog in Singapore. And finally, we have Mr. Ngiam Shi Tong, our Vice President of Marura Human Rights Organization. Okay, so I think to first start off, we can have some introductory comments from the speakers. Why don't we start off with Mr. Xu? Yeah.
Sorry, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Terry. From the Online Citizen. For those who have been following TLC, people should know that we have been asking for live parliamentary video for a very, very long time. And in an article that was published on TLC, we detailed a series of emails that we have sent to the Parliament since 2014, if I'm not wrong, all the way down to today, that Parliament cannot give a clear answer on where can we get the archives of video. Because say, for example, 1960s or 1970s, sorry, that's wrong, 1980s or 1990s, all the videos, who are keeping it? The Senior Minister of State, Mr. Chee, said that the copyright belongs with the government. However, when we asked the Parliament whether can we access the video, they asked us to go and find MediaCorp and to get the access. And we also have on top of that seek permission from the Member of Parliament for the permission to use the video, and also to pay the MediaCorp for the use. So through that whole exercise, I find that the whole thing about the parliamentary video is very opaque. And I don't think, in fact, I think they were replying me not based on standard protocol, but based on to and back and forth asking the superior what should I reply to this guy who's asking me for all this information. So I think for any government that would pride itself as a first world country administrator, there needs to be a need, as in there needs to be a platform in which is transparent to the public, even if like what Samantha mentioned, as low demand, but there still needs to be the government still need to provide for the public, even if there's no demand. We take for South Africa, for example. South Africa have a population of I think 25 million, if I'm not wrong. Sorry, how much is that? South Africa has 56 million individuals, but the live stream on YouTube that it actually broadcasts only have 2,000 views. But yet, despite that, it still continues its live streaming. So I don't think the government can say because there's low demand and therefore they do not do it. I don't think any government out there would take this line of defense. So I think I would say a lot more, but I think it's best to let the other panelists talk more about the matter first. Yeah.
No, sorry, Mr. Pillai.
Okay, thanks Samantha and thanks Terry. I'd like to say some introductory words here. First thing that comes to my mind is electoral accountability. And what is democracy actually? So if you look at Francis Fukuyama, who's a political scientist, he has said the 3 pillars of democracy. One is electoral accountability. The other one is statehood, which Singapore is very good at collecting taxes. And it's actually, efficiency of a government is measured by the ability to collect taxes. So they're very good at that. Third is rule of law. Okay, I'll skip that topic for now. It's because beyond the ambit and purview of this discussion. So when it comes to accountability, right, we need to have, one of the key things that we need to have is full information to what the government is doing. And the other word that I want to introduce today is information asymmetry. So this is something that Sylvia Lim has brought up in Parliament. And even during the budget debates, we find that the whole argument is lopsided. Even though it's live broadcast, Heng Swee Keat comes on the day and then just delivers the entire speech. So we've got very little to go back on. So there needs to be not just live broadcast, but there needs to be a lot more information on the government numbers and accountability. Why is live broadcast important today? If you look at functioning democracy, India, for example, they do have live broadcast. And I think what Chee Hong Tat, I think he said that if a system works well, let's not tinker with it. So let's not fix the car if it's not broken. But if you really go back into the principle, it's not about whether the car is functioning or not, right? It is really about accountability. We really need to know, specific to what happened in Yon Pereira's case, right? He said something in Parliament, and the footage came out in YouTube and by gov.sg, and he said some of his speeches, or main part, the crux of the speech was truncated. And of course, he took it to Facebook and he said, hey, look, this is not right. And Chee Hong Tat said that he accused Channel News Asia of being partisan. I think that was not the intention. I think what we really want is for several media companies to cover, even if they are just social political blogs. I think Terry has stepped forward to take all the footage, and we are happy to cover based on his footage. That's one key important thing. But if there's just one media company that holds all the information, that holds all the chips or marbles, so to speak, then it becomes problematic. It also goes into the second question of who runs the media in Singapore. Both SPH and MediaCorp, the parent company is Temasek Holdings, and it's government linked, right? So that actually casts a lot of doubts on what is being reported, whether things are being reported fairly, and so on. And I think there's a group of people on the internet who are already clamoring for, some kind of more liberal media space. We are ranked 51,
What's
uh,
that?
did 154 or 51?
151.
151 this year. Not much better than some of the other African countries, I suppose. But where does that bring us, right? I mean, you can argue saying that what's primarily important are bread and butter issues, building statehood, but it has also come to a point that we need to open up the media. We need to have more accountability of what's happening within Parliament, outside Parliament, and also other kind of information if they can allow us to peruse and report on. And with that, I think I'll pass back to Samantha, and then you can take it.
Okay. I think we will go on to Mr.
Okay,
Chu.
got it.
Yeah.
Oh, or should we just do this? It's better, right? I don't think your mic was on anyways.
You want this?
No, I don't think it was on anyways, right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah. No, as in just to, I mean, say we want to engage with what the minister said about demand, right? So I think like what consensus feels is that we shouldn't measure demand as just pure numbers, so maybe only say 2,000 people want to watch it. But I think the analogy is that we can compare this to say like the financial reports of a company, your financial due diligence. Not a lot of people would read it. Not a lot of people would, it's not going to be on the bestsellers list anytime soon. But the important thing is that important people read it. Your auditors, investors, shareholders, senior management. So the comparison here is that this live stream or even like parliamentary proceedings in its unedited form being in a public domain is that important people will scrutinize it. So these are your journalists, political commentators. So even though the demand is not hard in the sense that not in hard numbers, but it's the quality of the demand. It is the demand from important people to do this public service of scrutinizing the events and coming up with something for the people to inform the people. So I think that is the main counter argument to the demand question.
Yes, right. I think we should turn on from Maro as Samantha is VP of Maro. So I think from Maro's point of view and from personal, a lot of it does have to do with the importance of transparency and openness of government in Singapore. And in the case of parliamentary proceedings specifically, I also agree with Mr. Pilay's point that a lot of this has that one of the problems with the fact that we don't have live parliamentary proceedings is that in Singapore the media is essentially controlled by the government. And yes, I think on the government side they'll say yes, everything is enhanced, which is true. Everything is enhanced and it is searchable internet, but it doesn't come out. The proceedings will not come out till about 2 weeks after the sitting, by which time it's much too late. Because if you notice, the media coverage tends to focus. Inevitably, it's going to focus on what the government's position is, and even any good questions or good clarifications which are asked by other members, even KP backbenchers, often don't make it into the news, and sometimes they may also sometimes be misinterpreted or misrepresented. Or without the live proceedings, it's very hard for independent observers or constituents, the MP's own constituencies, to really be sure what exactly was said. Short of waiting another 2 weeks for answer to come out, but by that time it's much too late. So I think just for transparency and we're talking about accountability, and also to take up Hui Jin's other point on like the analogy is with financial reporting. Again, yes, not many people will look at it, but the fact that it's there is important and keeps everyone honest.
Okay. I think there are a lot of different perspectives that we can take on this issue. But for now, I'd like to go back to the basics. What is the Parliament? What does it do? So why must we be concerned about what they do? What do you think?
Well, Parliament is the place where you set you
Right, because
you make the law.
Right.
That's really important. We'll first debate on the issues surrounding Singapore, and I think we have to go because I'm worried that the camera don't pick up the sound. You see, so two important things. One is you allow a member of parliament to bring out concerns of the members of public or their constituents to the public and have the ministers to address the thing. And secondly, and most importantly, the Parliament is where you introduce bills to either amend law or introduce law, or even to amend the constitution, like the elected presidency. These are things that while true enough, many citizens might not be that aware or that concerned, but there are still a sizable group of people who are really concerned, and they would like to see what goes on. The whatever recording that you have there, actually, if you ask me, because I do go to the Parliamentary to view the proceedings, there are a lot of details that are not captured inside. Example, how they pass the bill. Do you know that I have not seen once that there is two separate reading of a bill. It's the second reading of the bill and third reading, because once second reading is passed, immediately on the spot, the speaker will say, "Oh, when would you like to have the third reading, madam?" Okay, now, madam, back then, madam, can we have it today? Oh, today then. So it's really like true train. If you introduce a bill, you just take 2 months for something to be turned into law. That's ridiculous. I don't think any country really allows that to happen. So that is from my perspective, why is it so important to have it live? Because there are many items, many small things that are not captured in edited videos, and sometimes see if the parliamentary sitting is say 5 hours, would any person who is not a journalist or whatever sit through the full 5 hours? I don't think so. But the thing is, if the video is live, any interested individual would just sit there and just watch the thing that's going live. If something is something particular that they spot, they will highlight it in social media or in news or etc. And then that if that resonates with people, that would be shared. But and that is where what I call it, the group actually come together and help to promote like citizen participation in that sense. Because currently it's only the reporters sitting through the news, the procession. So you are relying just on a few individuals to spot out anything that's problematic. But if you have live parliamentary sitting, you're engaging the whole population, whole Singapore population, to look at is there anything wrong or anything that you would like to highlight. And then if it goes viral, say on social media or say a screenshot or etc., and someone write a summary, and that becomes a national discussion, and yeah, so that's on the point of why it's important on Parliament.
Question on what is a parliament?
Yeah.
Right, I just want to explain like why the parliament is the crux of what we are discussing now, parliamentary proceeding.
Okay, so I mean, let me start by saying the two functions. One is lawmaking, of course, and the executive function of passing a budget. So there are two things that we look up to the parliament. Okay, but in this case, why we feel having live broadcast is important. I like what Terry mentioned. I don't think we have the resources to send someone down to cover parliamentary sessions, and some of the speeches can be utterly boring.
No,
but that's besides the point. But so it cuts to the clutter, right? So we don't want people to see it. But I think people who are observing, I think in the sense, consensus.sg has said the same thing. People who are observing, whether they are corporate leaders or political watchers, want to know what is happening. We want to have full disclosure to what's happening within Parliament. So that's key. That's important, right? The other thing that I want to say is also, because this may not be pertaining to live broadcast, is the way members of Parliament are given the opportunity to raise issues. And I think because it's very lopsided Parliament, that is also another area that we want to see. So it's not just live broadcast. We want to also see how you can balance out the parliamentary proceedings. Those are the two things, and I think maybe I'll pass the mic to consensus.
So about that, about parliamentary proceedings, maybe then. So maybe this will be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but then perhaps with Tan Chuan Jin taking up the speaker role and the new mascot, I mean, it seems a bit patronizing. But if the direction they're taking is then better education, to try and explain to the people the proceedings of Parliament, like what happens when a bill is introduced, who can introduce a bill, is it a private member's bill, is it a bill from the minister, and how these things go through in Parliament, then I think that would also improve what you're saying. So it's not only about a live broadcast of Parliament, but then better understanding of how Parliament works. So I think like even most people now, you ask them like, oh, what's Parliament, what goes, then laws pass there, or they have a debate. But I think it's also important to know how these things work, and how do MPs get called on to speak? How do they field their questions? How many questions can they field? Who decides what questions are answered, or answered verbally or in a written form? Sorry about Terry, I have to respectfully disagree when you talk about how it's I don't think your average guy. I don't think it's like an outsourcing of that kind of journalism where your average guy watches the live proceedings and says like, oh, I think that's a bit funny, I'm going to put it on social media. I don't think that's that'll be the main benefit of the live stream, but rather it's your commentators who will point this out instead of your common man, like, oh, I think that's a bit strange. Like as you said, the five if they're not going to go down for 5 hours, I don't think they will sit through the live stream in the comfort of their home for 5 hours as well.
Any response, Terry? Or?
Oh, yeah, I can respond to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, and that's the thing. We are not talking about people sitting through 5 hours of live stream. We are talking about, say, example, 10,000 people at any point in time across the 5 hours. They've just viewed probably 20. I give you 1 minute. Say 20% view for that 1 minute, and that's how you spread the whole thing. Instead of having say 5 reporters viewing the 5 hours, you have 10,000 people viewing through the 5 hours. And of course, some people who are interested will just view through the whole thing. And that's the same thing with how our budget, the live streaming of budget works. It's like we also don't expect a lot of people viewing the whole stream, but we do stream that because people who are interested could just sit through and listen exactly at the point where the finance minister announced certain things. And going back to what Kumara mentioned about the monopolization of the reporting, right? See, the thing is, why is it that only state-endorsed media is allowed to report live? So all the whatever stuff we see on Facebook, social media, tweets, and etc. of what the minister just said is reported live by the state media. Why are they able to do so? Because they have the footage. They have the footage live streamed to their newsroom, or in the media gallery for the Parliament. Even if, say, I go to the Parliament, sit in the public gallery, I cannot do that because the thing is, I have to surrender all my electronic devices when I go to the public gallery, and therefore I cannot say, oh, I listen to the minister and say I tweet. So independent media does not have this leeway of doing so. Only state-endorsed media, they have the live footage, and then they could just, oh, I cut out the video and post out, and then a lot of shares. And most importantly, why does the government would desire such an outcome? Because the state media would then be able to set narratives. They would be the one who set the headline and cut out certain footage and say, oh, what did this person say? Or how certain minister seemingly best another opposition member of parliament. When it's not the case, because if the footage were to rewind, say, 5-10 minutes ago, this MP might have said something, opposition MP will have said something that is totally reasonable and undeniable. But if the minister, 10 minutes later, would just say something like, oh, you have not said anything to prove your point. But the thing is, for the common folk, they would not know that this had actually transpired. So, yeah, so that's the thing about live stream. Because you cannot put all the responsibility on journalists, and journalists, as professional or capable as they are, they cannot cover such a wide amount of information. It's still important to have people, although amateurs, to help to screen through the content. Yeah, that's my view.
Sorry, yeah, that was actually my interpretation of Terry's proposal as well. To me, opening up the parliamentary proceedings is essentially a form of crowdsourcing. it's crowdsourcing assessment of Parliament, of how the Parliament is doing, and but that's if you can look at crowdsourcing across the population, but even as an individual, I mean, do I want to know how my individual MP Sia Camping is doing, other than being chairman of the acting chairman of the select committee? We were testifying, but as a whole, it's very hard for ordinary constituent to know what his particular MP is doing. So perhaps one way is actually let him see them in Parliament, and it's actually beneficial for the MPs who are doing a good job. It's actually a good thing. Right? Otherwise, even PAP backbenchers will get shadowed by all the limelight which is put on the ministers and the big MPs.
I'd like to raise the point on.
Sorry.
No, I have a mic. Sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Right. So I think I'd like to raise another take on the issue of what Mr. Chu is saying about not the average person would want to go through the whole video of parliamentary proceeding, and Minister Chi's argument on lack of demand. I think another way we can look at it is the concept of citizenship and how the concept of citizenship plays into the practice of democracy in the country. So instead, because the way I see it, I think democracy it started off as a people's government for the people, by the people. So it's not entirely unfair for Minister Chi to say that because the people are not demanding it. Maybe another way to look at it is he don't think that demand is strong enough. There is demand, but it's not entirely strong enough for the government to take action. That's another way to look at it. So my question is, should there be like another form of, should it be more of a ground up approach? Should we inculcate more of awareness among the public first, for them to generate kind of awareness of the importance of parliamentary proceedings, how they should engage in parliamentary activities, that kind of thing? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
Oh.
I think we have to close.
Yeah, we're too close.
I just get it. Yeah, no, definitely, because I think, as much as we want to say like, we should all be active citizens, it's our civic duty to care about these things. Like what you said, that I think the average guy in Singapore doesn't care about these kind of things. So the thing is, and also, I think the main reason is that, like you said, the parliamentary proceedings can be quite opaque, and you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Sometimes speech just go on and on and on, and it can be quite boring. That's fair enough. Should there be education for people to understand Parliament, understand how laws work? Yeah, definitely. I think so. The PP Member of Parliament Lewis, him and his team of legislative assistants have been doing these little workshops called Parliament 101, Parliament 201, and everything. So they're trying to reach out to people, and they have so their legislative assistants share with the people in the workshop like how they research their questions. How many questions they get to ask, basically how Parliament essentially works. So I think that's really, really powerful, and that's important, and I think that's what we should do. So it can then be a ground-up thing where we have education, people start to care, and people start to say, oh, now they know, right? They write in like, hey, actually, MP, can you go and say that, oh, I want a live stream, or I want digital archives. I think that's definitely one way, and that is quite a meaningful way as well.
Okay, I can't help to keep thinking something else. You see, what you say is correct on educating the Parliament, educating the citizens on how the Parliament works, etc. But I think, from my view, why is it important to let people see live stream of the Parliament's session? Is to let them understand how dangerous is it to have the People's Action Party have supermajority. Because whatever you have said just now about going through all the information, especially for Lewison is one of the best PAP MP out there. But the thing is, despite all the reasonable arguments that he had made in Parliament on the policies or the bills and changes to the laws that is proposed by the government, all these suggestions are being just thrown out the window. Why? Because the PAP has the party whip in hand. And being super majority, even if the opposition were to contest saying that this course is actually not acceptable, this needs to be amended. No use, because simply the government has the PAP government has super majority. All that true. So in fact, the PAP MPs don't even have to bother to go and do the research, because all they have to do is just say yes to the bill. Even if they go through everything, What for? Because the idea is that the government has done the due diligence and the ministry have gone through all the research and then have come out with the so-called best ideas. So it's all defended by the ministers. So even if whatever the MP says, it will be just accepted as okay. This is your feedback. We understand. And then subsequently on that same day, the bill is passed without amendment. Yeah.
So I think maybe we are conflating. I think we are conflating different issues here. So I think definitely you definitely have some point there. But then I think if we're gonna bring the focus back on Parliament live streaming, then I think my issue is then I think what we're talking about is then what comes first, right? So are we gonna have the live stream first and people be apathetic to the live stream? Are we gonna have education first and then when live stream comes, it's more meaningful?
Okay, so I come from a more humane point of view. If you see something that is really wrong, you would want to understand what is actually wrong. If you're told that everything is right, saying going through all the proper procedure, I assume that okay, the parliament is actually going well. Why should I go and take a look? If I see that the parliament procedure is pretty ridiculous, as in like example how PM Lee defended himself in the Oxley Road saga and the elected presidency, etc. People start wondering, it's like, is the parliament really functioning as what it's supposed to be? And then people start to ask, how does the parliament actually runs its business? If we teach the citizens that everything is going well, this is what we do, and etc., it will have a false impression that everything is running smoothly. That's again from my point of view.
I think I'm saying that.
I've got a question. Actually, it seems to me like educating people first, before we can give them a live feed, is like saying, look, let's put you through kindergarten, primary school, then go through our normal and express stream, and if you make the grade, I'll give you a live stream. Is that what you're saying actually?
No. I'm just saying that as Samantha raised, where can we move forward from here?
Yeah.
Then we can. I think we can have all these forums, and we can have people ask and saying, and I agree, we should have a live stream. I definitely agree with you guys. But then so is it like us saying that we should have live stream, and then we do this kind of thing, and people say we should have live stream, and live stream comes. Maybe not. Maybe a more meaningful way is then first we start with education, and then you start to have people caring about it. So maybe now you go to the layman and say, hey, should we have live stream? It's like, how, why, I don't care what does it matter? But when we educate people, we show them how important Parliament is, how Parliament works. So I'm not saying that it's working well right now. We tell them how Parliament should work. Armed with this knowledge, maybe they go on to Channel News Asia and they see what's on there. Actually, maybe this is not supposed to be the case. How come I only see 1 minute of this debate when it's supposed to be 10 minutes? And then in them, they start to realize that, hey, maybe there is a value of this live stream. And then you get that kind of mass support. And then slowly you have people telling the MPs, hey, why are you not asking for a live stream? You have that mass support to sign your change.org documents. So I do agree, we should have a live stream. It's just that where do we go from there? Is it from us saying that, we should have live stream? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's through education. Maybe it's getting support from, the layman, everyone.
Anything?
Well, okay. A more simple question would be, what's stopping the government from introducing live stream? You see, the thing is, it's not, because the thing is, right, it's not like you have to build a stadium, it's not you have to build a satellite, it's not whatever. Like I said, the footage is already all there. The equipment is already all there. The Wi-Fi, the internet, the broadband Wi-Fi is already inside Parliament. But guests also can use that. So what's stopping the Parliament from broadcasting the live stream? In fact, it's to them, right? It's just whether or not would they give a green light. That's just as simple as that. If there needs to be a sizable investment, like the one that they use for the the rubbish bin at the National Civilization, like the cost, if you can match that cost, okay, probably there needs to be a relook. But if the cost itself is basically insignificant or basically non-existent, so what is the kind of detriment? Why not?
Well, I think the obvious. On.
Tricky at this mic.
Okay, yeah. Well, the obvious reason why not is because the government wants to control the narrative, as you say. So I think it's not the problem is not really just about the live online proceedings. It's this whole issue as yourself, alternative media, independent media versus the sort of mainstream media, government-controlled media. So essentially, they still want media to act as gatekeepers. The government is a gatekeeper, and the media is their gatekeeper too. So essentially, it's quite obvious what the reason is. They want to maintain control of the agenda. So until we get around that point, so again, it goes back to the question of how do we change it such that there's greater opinion leaders, greater alternatives to the government. Because the risk, as usual, is that if there's one gatekeeper, if the gatekeeper misses something, we're all screwed. Right? Which is the problem which we might be facing now. That we see a lot of things, the government is repeating its old strategies, old tactics, even right down to repeating the recent select committee is also a repeat actually of the 1987 Marxist conspiracy, media manipulation. But yes, they take an old playbook again. But is that playbook still relevant today? It may not be. It may not work either. So how do we ensure that Singapore as a whole has a diverse range of opinions, diverse range of ideas that will allow us as a country to come up with a better solution? Right? And in this case, the case of Parliament, it is another example of by giving citizens greater access to the actual parliamentary proceedings by live telecast, we will hope that the citizens also be more engaged in public affairs and will be able to contribute more to the society.
Actually, if I can just move a point, I think this whole incident with Leon Pereira actually brings up a very important, pertinent question. This is maybe one of the few instances that we've known of, right, that there has been a technical glitch. First, I want to know, there's so many cameras in Channel News Asia has deployed quite a number of cameras in there. What was the technical glitch? And there hasn't been any proper explanation as to what happened and what transpired. Was there any editing that took place? And was there any omission on the part of Channel News Asia? I mean, these are questions that we should be asking, and there hasn't been any answers to these. They've given a big broad statement saying that it was a technical glitch, and Mr. Leon Pereira was accusing Channel News Asia of being partisan. But I think as a public and as a media representing the political development in Singapore, or covering the politics of Singapore, we want to know what really transpired, right? And giving it to one media player, which is just Channel News Asia, and they have got all the marbles, they've got a monopoly of the situation. So whether we need to educate the people first or whether we should go live, I think what we really need today is accountability. And if we can achieve that through live streaming, and I think we are a step closer to achieving that freedom of information, right? Which I spoke about, the information asymmetry in the beginning. The government holds all the information and we have got very little information. So I think this actually moots the point that we need to have it. And it's not about when. I think the question is, yes, we should have done this 10 years ago, I think, if you ask me. In fact, we used to see live debates, and I think Uncle Leong can attest to that, of JBJ and Mr. Lee Kuan Yew in Parliament. And we have taken a step back today, actually. So I think it's not a question of whether we should have it. We should be having it, and there has been a demand and petition that we should have it. I think it's a bit pointless to discuss about education.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I think, do you want to moderate it? You want to moderate it?
No, because I think you're going back and forth
Yes.
on like the idea of the people. Because right now we have three players in the issue. There's Parliament, there's citizens, and there's the broadcasters. So we've been circling around what role they play and how much of a role they should play in this whole issue. So what I want to suggest now is that you have your point on how education is important. Maybe to make the whole process of making parliamentary proceedings live meaningful. And then you say that
It's not, sorry.
Oh.
I don't think it's about making it meaningful. It's just that I think we were speaking from a point like as if we can choose to make it live or not.
Right.
Like clearly, I think very clearly, right, the government is reluctant to do it, right, or they don't want to do it. So it doesn't matter what we say, but the kind of where can we go from here, right? Is that it's through education, it's through people saying that, hey, that's what I want, instead of a small group of people saying, yeah, that's what we should do, that's what we should do. Clearly, if they're reluctant to do it, right, this is the only way forward. So education is not that we need to be educated first, then we can have it. But it's because we are educated, therefore we can meaningfully say that that's what we want, and we show it to the government, and then it's that kind of pressure that will make them relent. Because clearly, as of right now, they are reluctant to do it.
Right. Okay. So for now, I think your point is that because of different people's background, their attitude towards demand for live parliamentary proceedings will be different, and maybe it can happen concurrently. Maybe it's a before and after thing. But what I would like to suggest is that it's about the people, right? Democracy is about the people, so it's not unfair for Minister Chi to suggest the role of citizens in parliamentary proceedings and how they should view live or not parliamentary proceedings. I think for now we can come to agreement that the participation is important in the parliamentary proceedings. So I think from go on to that, right, I would like to ask what the medium should be. What should the medium of live parliamentary proceedings be? Because this is a topic that came about in 1960s, 80s, and 90s when in the UK, they was just starting out to live broadcast the parliamentary proceedings. There were issues on what kind of medium should be used. Television, there was the worry about the television being used as a medium and how it could trivialize the government. Now we have a lot of other mediums. We have online streaming via internet, we have TV, we have radio, we have apps, that kind of thing. So what medium do you think is compatible with the nature of parliamentary proceedings now?
So I think a few months ago, if you're aware, I did a search on the whole how many countries are there? 160 something like that.
Right.
160 over countries. I went to search for all their information and discovered that there are 95 countries out there that has live streaming services. So live streaming services include websites, TV, etc. But majority has live streaming via YouTube or on web streaming through their website. So I don't have the list here, but basically, okay, I can name you some. Malaysia so other than the Western countries, all of them have it. The North American countries, all of them have it. The Asia itself, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Taiwan, all of them have live streaming on the website and on TV as well. Or I think Philippines, Thailand might not have live TV. Even Burma military junta has live streaming on YouTube. So I think given Singapore being such a country with so much people having mobile phones, I think a platform such as Facebook, YouTube, or even a web app itself, Singapore is trying to become a smart nation. Why can't there be an app for live streaming? And again, the cost is really insignificant. So I think that's my stance on the thing. Medium wise, okay, before I go further, a lot of people, if you see online, the comments will say, "Oh, it'll be too expensive to have a TV channel." No one's asking for a TV channel. Even if you use Channel 5, I think it's okay because they don't have much program to begin with. So I think they could just. But no one watches TV anymore. Also, a lot of people nowadays are just being stuck to their phone. So if you tell them that something's going on, they will just turn on their mobile phone and just turn to the app or turn to the website, and then they will view. And basically, you don't have to worry that they don't have accessibility to that. People can't really access the TV actually.
So actually, I also support internet based simply because there are also a large number of overseas Singaporeans nowadays.
Yes.
mean, apart from those who are living long term overseas, there were those who are traveling. So if you restrict the TV, then they're going to be stuck to Singapore or wherever. So internet basis makes sense. But and I guess I know Terry mentioned the cost will be insignificant, but are you? I mean, I think two of you are the media professionals here. So could you put a dollar estimate on that? If they were going to have a channel?
Zero.
Zero? Why?
Okay, see, as I said, the equipment has been already purchased by the Parliament for live streaming and managed by MediaCorp. So the footage are all done. The Wi-Fi at the Parliament is already paid for. Everyone here of us, we would have internet connection at home. It's not calculated based on your bandwidth. So whatever you have paid is already paid for. So and the connection, any computer can be linked up with the so-called the video feed. So basically, I don't think Parliament don't have any computers or laptops, etc. So given that all the necessary items are available, so there's no cost.
Does YouTube charge for channels?
No. It's free. So in fact, gov.sg could do a live channel. In fact, gov.sg does live for the budget. Yeah. Gov.sg does live for the rally, for the so-called National Day rally. So they could do that, but the thing is, they choose not to.
Sorry for in regards to your comments about YouTube and internet and how we have.
Just to use the mic because of live streaming.
Okay.
Because public is people are commenting.
Oh, okay. So what you talked about YouTube being a very easy form of starting point for how live streaming can be done for parliamentary proceedings, right? I would raise another perspective of class, because in Kenya, a study was published in 2014 on how social.
Sorry, excuse me.
Sorry, could the people in the back keep it slightly down? Sorry. Okay, just say there was a case study in Kenya who does live streaming of parliamentary proceedings in 2014 that social status affects the knowledge of people on parliamentary proceedings. People who are interested and who are knowledgeable of parliamentary proceedings are generally, mostly in the upper and middle class. And right now, what you're talking about, internet connectivity, smartphones, that kind of thing, all those resources, I think, even for Singapore, is still exclusive to the upper and middle class or lower middle class. So what about the non-upper and middle class people? How do you think we could include them into the engagement with Parliament?
Where do you get the numbers?
Sorry?
Where do you get the numbers? I mean, you said Singaporeans, lower middle class don't get, or lower class,
right,
or the poor don't have access.
When I mean that, I mean the not homeless,
the cost of connection.
The cost of connection, because there is still a cost. And I do know of people who do not have the access to those.
Okay, I mean, so I'm from the ICT sector.
Right.
The government boasts that we have 99% internet penetration in homes.
Yeah.
I think the mobile penetration, some of us have 2 mobile phones. Actually, I'm one of the odd ones, dinosaur that carries only 1. Probably shows my age. But I think if I can correct you on the statistics, typically I think Singaporeans do have connection, whether they're in a tertiary institution or somewhere there's wireless.sg, right? So they do have, you go to Starbucks, you do have free access. Maybe if they're very poor and they're at home, they may not have internet connection. But I think that's a very small portion of the population. By and large, Singaporeans are affluent, and we're one of the richest in terms of per capita income. So in terms of understanding, I think we are already there. We wouldn't know, we may not know the peculiarities or the specifics of how the proceedings of parliamentary proceedings, right? But I think we do have a good grasp of politics. I mean, if you can come and if you look at either the Independent or TUC, look at the kind of comments that we get. Minus the vitriolic comments, you do have some very intelligent comments out there. I'd like to thank these people for that. The other thing is, let's not dismiss Singaporeans as being unaware or apolitical, and I think we should move away from that narrative. We should actually try, I mean, as Terry has suggested there's no cost to it. If there's no cost, we can either try YouTube, even toggle.sg, because it's owned by MediaCorp itself. We can try live streaming, and I think that will open up new avenues for us and different platforms for discussion as well. I think you want to follow up, is it?
Yeah, I was going to say, because I'm not familiar with the TV market anymore, but I don't know, we don't have broadcast TV, it's ending soon, right? So actually, even normal TV will need some connection at home. Is that right?
You're referring to digital TV, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's no longer air. So all of them actually have to be connected, either through Singtel broadband or through Starhub connection. So it's still connected to TV in a sense. It does not require internet connection.
Wait, another idea of like what you're talking about on how MediaCorp and SPH, they're all you could say linked to the government or even state-owned. I would suggest that a lot of the countries that do live streaming of parliamentary proceedings, right, they stream their footages through state-owned channels.
No.
Yeah.
They allow they open
Sorry.
access.
They open access.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
It actually depends. Like example, US C-SPAN, if I'm not wrong, right?
C-SPAN.
C-SPAN is the official channel, but at the same time they also allow CNN, CNBC or whatever to go in and film themselves. So other than the official channel, you have the others as well. So Taiwan, for example, Taiwan also have the official and then allow the press to go in as well. But there are certain governments where they only allow their own official videos. Say, I think Malaysia also has that official, but live. But and what's the question?
The ones I come across that are state-owned channels.
Okay. So most, I would say, some actually allow the independent or the so-called the media companies to go in as well, other than their own. And some restrict because they do not want the the videographers or photographers to be shooting places where they should not be shooting. Like example, shooting at documents that might be sensitive and etc. So different countries have different restrictions in terms of the media coverage.
Right.
Actually, if I can just add to the point, it doesn't matter whether it's just MediaCorp or the government that's broadcasting, or we have an array of media companies. I think what really matters is we want live feed, live streaming. If it can be done by MediaCorp, I think that's the first step. I think the ultimate step is for a few media companies to report. But as Minister Chi has said, we may not have that kind of demand. So it's okay even if MediaCorp does it. I mean, that's our point actually.
The issue is just about who edits.
So I mean, yeah, it doesn't really matter whether it's state-owned or not, so long as it's a full broadcast of the proceedings and there's no selective editing.
And about the rules, like in the House of Commons, right? Apparently, like for BBC, there are certain rules, so you can only shoot the man who's speaking, the man or woman who's speaking, and if you call out, like, so after he speaks and he calls out, say, another member, and then you can pan over to him or her and see her reaction. But it's not like frivolous shooting. As he's talking, you look at a protest in the grandstand now. So I think no matter who, like what he said, no matter who broadcasts, as long as it's full, live, unedited, and set out in certain ground rules and fair use, that's fine.
Your point actually brings to an incident. Remember when Koh Boon Wan apologized for the breakdown, and Desmond Quek was in the public gallery. MediaCorp actually shot at Desmond Quek from the public gallery. To me, I think that was not allowed by right. But or they were instructed to do so. I don't know, but I don't think it was right to shoot at the public gallery, because if it's so, then for example, when the Oxley Road saga, right, Ho Ching was in the gallery as well. Why didn't they shoot them? So I think the thing about regulations, right, in Singapore, sometimes I don't think they are abide by.
I'm not saying that this
Yeah.
is the rules in
Understand,
Singapore. I'm just
understand.
saying somewhere else.
Yeah.
There are rules.
Yeah, I'm just bringing out that rules in
It'll be a good
Singapore.
practice.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the next point is
Okay. Okay. So I think for now we can establish that we want a live feed. A live feed is important for Singapore's future. But what I want to ask is some hypothetical situations. What's going to happen if this situation right now continues? What do you think? Like, because we are talking about how important it is for parliamentary proceedings to be broadcast live, right? If it's so important, right, would there be adverse consequences if such a situation continue? And if so, what would they be, hypothetically?
It's just the same as the reserve. The longer that we say we are keeping the reserve a national secret because the other countries would game our currency or something like that. Speculate our currency, manipulate our currency. The more people believe that there's no money in the national reserve. Same thing with the live stream. People will ask, given that there is actually no hurdle to providing live stream, right? People will ask, what's there to hide? Why can't you provide live stream? Because the government cannot use the argument saying that, oh, because you're a commoners, you don't understand what's happening in government, as a justification of why there's no live stream. They only can say what Chee Hong Tat said. There's no demand, therefore we are not doing it. But as we mentioned, there's no cost in it. So why the apprehension of providing it since it's actually no cost? So hypothetically, if this continue and like with sites like us considering harboring this point, people will start to really wonder what's there to hide? Why can't you show the whole proceeding? And why is it that the media corps still continue to hold on to the recordings and charge them for it? Just as of note, any citizen can only access 6 months of whatever footage the areas. So, example, now it's this April. So if you go back in time, you want to see something that's in September. Sorry, other than what is on YouTube or what someone else has recorded, there's no longer any official record. So whatever has been discussed, say in the 90s, 80s, that has video recording, you cannot, you do not have access to it, and that goes again back to the point of when I'm 10-year-old, I might not have the knowledge to understand what happened. But say 20 years ago, 30 years later, I have my doctorate and I know exactly what, and I want to refer to what exactly was said. But the current system of how we manage the parliament video records does not allow me to access. So
now you're questioning the government's form of truth.
yeah.
Right. Actually, my starting point is, how would the current situation, if allowed to continue, how would that affect the state of democracy that the state of democracy Singapore is in? Would democracy in Singapore deteriorate because of this, or affected by this? What do you think?
I think it will just not develop. It will be no worse. It might get worse for all you know. The current trends don't look that good. But continuing with this broadcast will definitely not improve things. And I think earlier you were asking what can we do. Actually, the way to get around the government's point of no demand is actually for people to go and fill out the public galleries at every parliamentary seating. So hopefully, if anyone out there is really interested in forcing this issue, you can arrange mass. Maybe mass, instead of having those PA, all the grassroots events go Ethereum, have a mass event to go to Parliament.
But that's a bit tough because Parliament is weekdays and it's
Yes,
working office
exactly,
hours,
yeah.
so that's a bit prohibitive.
Yeah, in fact, your question was, if this continues, assuming that the government is hell-bent and they don't give live streaming or don't allow Terry to go from them, what's next? I think as a fallback option, as independent media, I mean, we'd love to have live streaming. I think what we can do is beef up some some staff and deploy them at Parliament to actually manually write the proceedings and then make a report. It could be a few hours late, but that's something that we can do. Or when the videos come out, we can actually put a link back on our website. And that's what we are currently doing. And I believe TOC is also doing something similar. That's our fallback option. But I think what's desirable, and if I can just bring back the point, where it's really painful is not that 4 hours delay, but what is really painful is the fact that there's omission, right? And they say that it's a technical glitch. That is something that needs to be addressed. It's not just an argument. We're not asking it for the sake of asking. It's accountability and transparency that we are asking for. If the government can come back and say that, tell us why there was a glitch, right? And what the nature of the glitch was. And if it's acceptable, I think we all can move on and accept the fact that there's a 4-hour delay, right? But if they can't tell us, and then it's like sweeping things under the rug. And that's my point that I'm trying to put across.
Right. Okay. Okay, so for now, I would like to ask the question of how do you think an alternative situation, for example, right now there's no live streaming, right? So another hypothetical situation, what if in the future there is live streaming? What kind of future of Singapore do you see in that? How would that affect the normal lives of citizens? Sorry, did I get my point across?
Yeah. It's just the opposite of the.
Yeah. So what would happen then? Would it be for the better, for the good, or what? I'm trying to get a more concrete picture of what would the future look like if our hopes are.
I'd say, okay. I think if having broadcast the main effect actually would, the first thing should be an educational point of view. So we were talking earlier about education, chicken day, right? Ironically, if we did have more, the main thing having live parliamentary proceedings is it does give people greater awareness. And I mean, I certainly can foresee on a school's basis, for example, just educating or inculcating children from early age to understand what it is the parliament does will actually make them more public, hopefully will make them more, will give them more awareness of public affairs, inculcate in them the attitude that they should be participants in society, not just passive observers or passive consumers.
Okay. What about, how do you think live streaming of parliamentary proceedings affect the parliament members? What do you think?
How it affects? Can I take that or?
Okay. I think the initially I suspect they'll become much more self-conscious, or then people will say, oh, I'm criticizing, say, some female members for how they dress, that kind of thing. Or for men also they get sensitive about the shiny heads and all that. But I think eventually that will only be a short-term effect. Eventually people will still look really at the quality of the members' arguments, and it's not as if right now they're not already in public eye and already have been very conscious of their appearance at whenever they go for any prize giving ceremony or any other public event. So and I think there are also studies I've seen in the past when live broadcasts were introduced in the US and other countries, people were also concerned that of grandstanding, like members might play to gallery and deliberately say outrageous things just to get attention. But the studies I've read don't seem to show that effect. So I think to a large extent it will probably be better. It probably will have a limited effect on the quality of the debate. The quality of the debate mostly depends on the ratio of ruling party and majority and minority party. But I don't think the TV itself will have an effect on the quality of debate. What the advantage of parliamentary proceedings is it brings Parliament closer to people, which will build up a stronger sense of citizenship.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And with the point of grandstanding, then I think it just falls on the speaker to keep the debates in check and say that, hey, it's getting ridiculous. Can you go back to the point? Yeah, and I think probably there will be more better active citizenry, and I also suspect we'll probably have better attendance.
See, the thing is, right? Let's not forget the video is already there. the only thing that's not captured in the current parliamentary video is the transition between a question to another question, where how the questioning is being stopped. So I don't think there's any worry for, because that is also what the PAP minister said about if you have live streaming, you will have a politician who do grandstanding, outrageous speeches, etc. Well, if there is this leaning, right, they would have done it because there's already videos being recorded and uploaded, etc. And you see in Chinese News Asia today, Straits Times, etc. It's already there. What's missing is that, particularly for the opposition MPs, is that they would know that whatever they say will be captured in entirety, and not having to worry that sneakness of the thing will be cut out and edited in such a way that they will be faulted by the public. It's more of assurance, I think, for the opposition that at least everything will be captured. I'll give you one example. You mentioned that, someone mentioned that Hansard actually records all the stuff. I can name you one example that Hansard did not record. I mentioned this in my article. What's there during the Administration of Justice so-called debate? So that back then it was still Madam Halimah Yacob who was the speaker. Workers' Party, Lau Jia-Kiang actually raised his hand, wanted to call for a division. Halimah Yacob, without even looking at the gallery, said, the eye has it, the eye has it. This was not captured in Hansard. This was not captured in Hansard. What was captured was only Madam Halimah asking Mr. Lau whether he wants to call for a division. What is not captured is that Lau Jia-Kiang had to raise his hand, stand up, walk to the podium, and ask for Madam's attention. This is not captured in Hansard. You can't capture this in words. This only can be captured in video, and this was not shown in the video by the Parliament. So this is why you have to have the thing in all entirety, because all this transition is not kept. And a lot of occasions where the opposition tried to follow up with minister because they were giving non-answers. You can see the speaker, I would say deliberate. At the point where the minister can no longer give any answer, he will look down and then call for the next person, even though there are a lot of other MPs still raising their hands. So if there was a live stream, a full edit, you could see that, and that would help a lot in the MPs, whether PAP MPs or the opposition MPs, in getting their answers. Yeah.
I think it's also very good for fact checking. So, like in the select committee hearing where Kirsten Han gave her submissions, after the proceeding, her problem with the minutes is that she felt that she was misrepresented. But I think what's good is that a huge part of the exchange was online on YouTube. So it's very easy to fact check. She says, no, I was misrepresented. Immediately you can go on YouTube. What did she say? Oh yeah, it doesn't really square. So it's a good resource just simply just to fact check things. And when there are conflicts and disputes, very easy to go back to the raw footage. Yeah, wrong. Yeah, correct. So much better transparency, very clear. Can help fight fake news.
Actually, your question was how it's going to impact the man on the street. Is that what you were asking previously?
Previously, yeah.
Yeah. So if I can just add to that point, right? I don't think there's going to be a sudden revelation of facts for the man on the street. But I think what it does, it opens up the parliamentary proceedings to a lot of media scrutiny. And if I can give you an example, when we were covering the budget this year, as Heng Swee Keat was delivering the parliamentary debates, we were able to put out articles and comment and critique the budget. So what's lacking today is that instantaneous reporting, right? So that's one. And also, I think members of the panel have said that if there have been omissions or mistakes, or if the recordings have been the written submissions or written records of minutes are wrong, it can be corrected. So there are many benefits to it. But I think let's not walk away thinking that, there's going to be live streaming, people are going to all be up in arms against the government or whatever. I don't think that will happen. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay, for the past an hour and past 1 hour, we've been talking about how the situation right now is not desirable. So I'd like to ask, right, is there any positivity at all in the current situation we have today?
Anything positive?
Yeah, anything positive about the current situation?
I mean, the good thing is that much of the video is available online, or a bit delayed, and I'm not sure how much of it is sort of selected out. But I'm not sure whether we can check with Terry later whether they actually eventually release all the footage or only just selected footage. But at least some of the footage is released, so we do have that at least. Yeah. So we were just going to ask you, do you know whether all the Parliament proceedings are available now, delayed?
All the Parliament, whatever you see in the whole summary, it's inside the Chinese Asia microsite. What is missing is when the bill is being passed. So you have the, say, speaker move from his or her speaker speech, go on to the select committee and stuff. Why is that important, right? You will then notice that the bills are passed with ridiculous fast speed. Within 15 minutes, the whole thing is being announced. No argument because super majority, right? So no one argue, no objection, no objection. Okay, pass and just walk back. So it's a true motion. People think that Parliament is a very solemn, very thorough debate, but it's not the case. It's because you have super majority, everything is just passed without. Okay, so that's one. The other thing is the videos are cut. If you notice, CNA are cut based on question. So you will start from the question, the reply by the minister, and then end with the last question. You will not see the part where people raise their hands and not be called. These are also being cut. You will not see parts where the speaker go to the podium and people start to walk away from their seats. And at some points, right, you will see the Parliament filled with less than 15 individuals left. These are things that are left out from all the cuts. Because when there's no speech, the person operating the camera would most of the time they will go to a white screen. So with white screen you will see how empty the whole Parliament is, and that's a point that I highlighted. Why no live streaming? To hide the poor attendance of the MPs. Yeah.
Actually, my question just now was: is there anything positive about today's current situation? Do you think there are any?
We're going to continue.
I just continue a point that things has been improving. In the past, the CNA only had 3 months of the footage. Now they have 6 months. In the past, I was corrected by gov.sg that they offer all the videos. But I remember when I first started scrutinizing the Parliament videos, right, they did not have all the questions. They only had the minister reply and the follow up from the person, and then the subsequent follow up question is not included. That was what I noticed. But now it is is the entirety of the question, including follow up questions. So things has been improving. The speed of how they upload the thing has also been improving. Because in the past, you would say today's Parliament, the video will only be uploaded the next morning.
Yeah. Now it's faster.
Now it's faster. Now it's even say 3 hours, 4 hours, they will have uploaded the thing. So I think our complaint actually does make a difference.
Yeah, to say that, is there anything positive or is it all negative? The question.
Because we've been talking a lot about the negative side, so
Okay. I mean, I need to balance the whatever I said. Yes, there have been a particular instance, right? But by and large, we do get access to most of the information, the proceedings of the day. We may not get a full picture of people walking up and down, up the podium, down. But there's some debates, for example, grilling of PJ Thang. It's not a party, that was select committee. Or in fact, the exchange between Shanmugam and Sylvia Lin. That has been they've been quite open about it. And we can't accuse either the government or Channel News Asia of editing or trying to sweep things under the rug, even though I've said that before. So there have been instances that have been open, and these are points or instances they could have not shown us, or not shown the full footage. So that's one point. But I think what we want to do and what we want to say in balance is if they can give us a bit more, or if they can shorten the time taken to upload the video instead of 4 hours or 3 hours to 30 minutes, that would be ideal, would be better. I mean, that's short of, actually fully broadcasting everything. So if we can nudge them closer, to and make the timelines a bit tighter for us, that will work in our favor. So it's not like they all go into this gas chamber and we don't know what's happening. They walk out and then we really hear it from the mainstream media. It's not that case, right? So let's keep this in perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, can I have that? Okay. I think we've been here for quite some time. So lastly, right, I think I want to, it's the last point, can there be a compromise between what we are asking now and what the current situation is? Because right now, we have been talking about how, it's live streaming, it can be easily done. Why aren't we doing it, right? And then there's a parliament side of view where there's no demand kind of thing. Is there like a bridge between that? Can there be baby steps first? Because from what I know, right, a lot of, like Taiwan, they recently have their live parliamentary TV channel. Before that, they had a month-long or near a month-long experimental project with their existing TV channel to gauge the waters kind of thing. And BBC, they started with radio and TV, and now they have online kind of thing. What are the baby steps that the parliament could take, to navigate their idea of lack of demand?
Well, I suppose the baby step is to start with YouTube or gov.sg. I think that would be a low cost innovation for them. If they can start there, I think the first step is if they can hasten the process, instead of taking 4 hours, we can give it to us in 30 minutes, that would be good. Ideally, they can live stream it on YouTube or gov.sg. I don't think the cost is going to be a lot. Maybe they might have to have one dedicated or two dedicated person to handle the live streaming technical issues of it. Or as Terry has suggested, he said he's willing to bear the cost and do it. I think which is a good national service.
But actually no cost.
No cost. Yeah.
No cost.
Your time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's true that I don't think really compromise position. It doesn't seem that difficult to do. Unless, there may be other very good reasons why the government is not doing it, but they haven't told. Until they tell us what the real reason is, it's very hard to come up with a compromise.
Kumar, you know why they can't lower the thing anymore? Because it's edited. because if the reason why they take 3 or 4 hours, because they edit the thing before uploading it. If they were to just simply upload what they have, it's live. That's the only reason why, and that's why Chee Hong Tat was not really that truthful when he said that the videos are not edited. It was edited, it is edited, just that it was edited in a way of cutting but not rearranging the flow. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we've said a lot about the issue today. Sorry, you have?
Any questions
I think
from
we're
the
going to
floor?
open up the floor. Any questions from the public? Yeah. Okay.
Sit down, just
Everyone has to be recorded.
No. It'll
You
be
can come to the front.
Okay, we all know your pretty face already.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for sharing your points of view and being part of the panel and being a moderator. I have a few things to say about the discussion. One is that I wish we had put more upfront that this is our right, not as a citizenship. There's a difference between citizenship and citizenry. It is a citizen's right to have access to information. It is the citizens who have voted in the members of parliament. Therefore, the members of parliament are accountable to the citizens. Based on that alone, this is actually, to me, a non-discussion. Live streaming ought to happen. There cannot be any compromises because it is part of a citizen's right by our Constitution, by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, by the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration. Second point I would like to make is the Freedom of Information Act, which Singapore does not have. Freedom of Information Act, the government has expressed this a few times. It means they are worried that it opens all the doors. But other countries that have it also have procedures that you have to fill in a form, apply, and say why you want that information. So we have to move towards a Freedom of Information Act with all its procedures. So this third point is this whole discussion of should we educate the population first before asking for live streaming. I agree with what Mr. Pillay has said. I do think we are moving backwards. Our population, we have the highest rate of literacy and numeracy in Southeast Asia. Singapore is a highly educated population. We just have to throw in that this is our right to have this. The cost is as minimal as discussed by what Terry is willing to offer in time and resources, as well as by the medium that Kumaran has suggested. So if the cost is low, then this whole thing about, small interest and all does not even stand its own ground. And I think my last point is when we talk, I think Kumaran also mentioned it a few times, we are really doing a disservice to our population if we think that our uncles and aunties, we grew up on rediffusion. Rediffusion was dialect, rediffusion kept us posted, rediffusion gave us our independence. The whole, both propaganda, information and communication was done through rediffusion. Our uncles and aunties, with a population that's growing older, all the more live streaming will keep many parts of our demographic profile in the loop as to what is happening. And I think therefore we are putting down our population when we say, what are they going to think about? Will they be able to understand, etc.? They may not understand procedures, but they will understand what they are hearing. That is all that is an access to information is what we are asking for. I think what would be more useful for us to discuss is how do we proceed to ensure that we get live streaming rather than should we educate. It will all be part and parcel in the end, but it is our right to ask that we should have live streaming. This is what I would like to say. Lastly, on a personal note, as a former nominated member of parliament, I do think a lot of parliamentary processes, I wonder how many on the panel have actually gone into parliament and sat in the gallery to see what are the procedures, because when you see the procedures, a lot of what Terry has been sharing are very valid comments that he has shared. We have to know what's the walk-in, walk-out. How many from the top are you watching down and seeing? Are they listening to each other or are they quite busy with other gadgets, with reading other papers? Live streaming will cut out a lot of this because you are giving your time, you are paid as a parliamentarian to follow the processes. So I do think that it is part of our own responsibility to discuss this with greater information, with greater greater experience, with greater homework, but not deviating from the fact that it is our constitutional right as well as a human right to ask that we be given the information as people who have voted the parliament in. They are accountable to us. And because I have to go, 3 p.m. I have to leave, I have given my summary of what I think, how we can head, but I leave it to you all, so thank you.
Yeah, ask the speakers if they want to. If they want to, I think he wants to respond.
Sorry, can I just? Yeah, I think you may have misunderstood my point about education.
No, I heard it all. I heard your counter and all. It's not that I'm making it up. Yeah, thank you.
I would like to continue and from where Prema left. I think it's very, very crucial that the debate should be prefaced on the right to, it's basically our right. It's like at the outset itself, one of the panel members have surrendered that right by saying that, oh, assuming that the government, okay, now the government don't want to, allow the live streaming or right to live parliamentary proceedings. So what do we do next? But why do you even accept that? What is the state of affair? In terms of, Prema mentioned about a constitutional right. In fact, this morning I posted something on the constitutional right and TOC had posted that. I published it. Do we not even explore that we do have a constitutional right? Do you concede that you have a constitutional right? If you do have the constitutional right, so first of all, you say that the not so well educated or the common folks won't enforce that right. What about the elite members? What about the educated class? Do we actually have to depend on cleaners to enforce rights? To, for example, right to even buy elections? What do we have to say? So this situation actually happened in India because there were some states which had live parliamentary proceedings because they used very sophisticated resources. Then there were 2 states, Andhra Pradesh and Kerala, which used the internet live streaming to cut down costs because to counter the argument as to whether it will be very costly by the state. And then there was one group in the state of Tamil Nadu that actually went to court to enforce a public interest litigation to say that it is actually the right. And in fact, the Indian Supreme Court's decision, which I would like to cite, basically a proposition about this thing about right. Is this really a constitutional right? Or is this really something that is decided by the government and actually is something like a privilege that they extend to us? In fact, I would like to just say that the Supreme Court has held that the right to know relating to public affairs is a basic right, and that the people of the country have a right to know everything that is done in a public way by the public functionaries. There can be no doubt that MPs are public functionaries, and elaborating on its reasoning, the court also emphasized the importance of public education for the process of popular government and to assist in that discovery of truth and strengthening the capacity of an individual in participating in the decision-making process. So that is how important it is. And of course, it's all important. I mean, it's how important it is to you, and us depends on how much you want to take this step, whether you want to file an action in court and get a court declaration. Now, that aside, then one final point that I would like to make is that this thing about whether the average man in the street was interested. In fact, the average man in the street was so well informed then, because there was one debate that was watched almost by everyone in Singapore. The whole, I mean, we were all playing soccer and we could hear the whole block was watching this unedited version. Only one unedited version we ever saw was actually the debate between Lee Kuan Yew and J.B. Jeyaretnam on the alleged executive interference in the subordinate judiciary, 1.5 hours. And in fact, I went to university to watch that. And you know what? After some time, the video disappeared from the media resource room. That says so much about our transparency.
Right. Do you have any comments?
I can, yeah. Thanks, Mr. Ravi. Just to clarify some points, I think Samantha was asking specifically what the media or alternate media can do in the interim period while we are fighting for, full media coverage and live streaming. So I think I made some suggestions that we can go send people down, reporters down to do some coverage. So, but that's not ideal. And we've also then moved on to say that I think Terry pointed out that it used to take almost 12 to 24 hours before we had access to videos, and today it's 4 hours. We do not, and Terry has also said that the 4 hours is because of some editing that goes in the background before they put it up. So what we're saying is if they can actually shorten the time frame to 30 minutes, that will work in my favor in terms of reporting. But I'm 100% with you that we need live coverage because that opens up information not just to the media and media representatives, to the public as well, and to other political watchers, leaders, people from other segments of the society. Just to clarify our point, yes.
Okay, I think to add on, in respect to the opinions of the two members of audience, right? You're talking about the constitutional right to information, of engaging in parliamentary activities, right? I think there's a difference between discussing whether it is a right. It is a right, a constitutional right to information, but then to have access to knowledge about parliamentary activities. I think right now what we're discussing about the nature of the access, whether it's live or not. Because right now it's not totally, we don't have access to knowledge on parliamentary proceedings, is what kind of presentation, what kind of speed we want this knowledge to be gained. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the floor?
Still go. Any questions?
Sorry.
Or Han Hui should hold a book.
I'm a very bad sore throat, but never mind, try to speak. I think Samantha asked a very interesting hypothetical question. What if the status quo continues? That parliamentary proceedings continue not to be telecast live, or for that matter, maybe it will forever never be telecast live, even after Mr. M. Ravi is gone, you know what I mean? Yeah. If you have gone to watch Parliament, it's very funny, you know. Parliament is often not just quite funny, but ridiculously funny. It is so entertaining. You know, recent studies show that Singapore is one of the least entertaining cities in the world. Now you know why? Because no live telecast. That's why when Samantha says, what are the pros and cons if there's live telecast? Our entertainment ranking will go up.
More of a comment than a question. You gotta turn the cameras.
Okay. Actually, right, I think I heard what the guys said. I forgot his name, sorry. So, what he mentioned will probably be the first step that the youth in Singapore has to take, because a lot of youth in Singapore do not know what's going on. So, after this part of so-called democratic baby steps is being taken, then that will be what Terry is mentioning. Because like giving real situation of what's happening around the world, and an example is like Taiwan. So in Taiwan, they have live telecast, and they also have their civil society group. It's very active. So they come up with websites that people will actually visit, and they will actually write down the comments, etc. Then the common citizens in Taiwan are actually the ones who will pick up comments that the different about what they are concerned with, and they will have different categories, like on healthcare. What are all the MPs saying about healthcare? So who should you vote for? Do you still want to support this person, or do you not want to support this person? Then on maybe housing, they will say, okay, what are the different age group? Because they also have the website whereby the different Taiwanese citizens can log in. So they will give their background and data. They will say, okay, I'm from which part of Taiwan, and what is my age group, what am I concerned with? So they will say maybe they are from the LGBT community, they are from the young couples, or they are elderly. Then they will say, okay, these are the housing policies that affects me, and these are what the different MPs have said in the parliament. And that is also one way whereby you can track attendance, because a lot of attendance in Singapore it's being taken down. But the thing is, people do not know who are their MPs and who are the ones who actually attend the parliamentary session, who are the ones who voted against or for the policy. Because most of the time during the voting part, the MPs are not even there to vote yes or no, and it's just being passed because of a majority seats in parliament.
Okay, thanks, Phoebe.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Can recognize the voice.
Maybe you want to show your face.
Okay, I think we should ask for any last comments from our speakers. Any finishing comments?
Okay, so no one else want to close out.
It's more a wrap. Okay, so I guess yes, it turns out we are very, to be honest, we are very much speaking to the choir, preaching to the choir here, because I think all of us do agree on the desirability of having live telecasts. So I think a lot of it does come down to what's the best way of putting pressure or persuading the government to do so. So I think, as you say, so it's putting the demands for those of you watching at home. You can go talk to your MP and ask them. Tell them you want to see their pretty face on TV.
Right, on the money basis.
Yes.
I want to see.
Yeah, go to your Meet the People sessions. And if not, I think.
Do you have any other? Sorry.
No, you'll be repeating myself.
Yeah,
Okay.
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 I think it's been a great informative session. I'd like to thank all the speakers and the audience members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,